Meet Richard. Originally from the UK, he moved to Singapore over 25 years ago, left his corporate job and started several businesses. A decade ago, the government offered him citizenship. He accepted and gave up his UK passport. But Richard shared with me why he hesitated, what locals do when they learn he's Singaporean, and the one thing he thinks Singapore must change. I'm Chernov, your insider to expat life. Let's go!
When you start feeling that it's your home?
In 2000, I think it would have been around 2006, I had a very courteous letter from the Singapore government saying, would you consider citizenship?
Oh wow.
I don't think they send those letters anymore. I think they send letters to people for good driving, which is lovely, also lovely. Who does that? Where in the world does that? Who sends you a letter for saying, you've driven really well, thank you so much? I've still got that letter. It's like, they clearly weren't watching my car, it's probably my wife's car.
I like it.
But they sent me a letter and look, big life changes. Sadly, I got divorced. I was considering a radical change of career and direction because of that.
But did you hesitate, accept?
Yes, very much I hesitated. Yeah. I received this letter in 2006.
Yeah.
I filed it, not in the shredder, but I filed it in the drawer.
Yeah.
2009, those changes were happening in my personal life and my work life.
Yeah.
In my career. So I reread the letter and went, okay.
So the offer stayed.
Yeah.
For 3 years.
And then in 2009, I got citizenship. In 2010, I bought the house that you did the interview in with Chi, redeveloped all of that. Yeah, I mean, it was a hugely positive decision.
And you had your son already?
By that stage, I had 2 children.
2 children?
Yeah.
Son, daughter?
Both sons.
Both sons.
I know where you're going with that, Max.
Yeah, so like, did you have it in mind? That,
yes.
Okay, you chose the citizenship.
Yes.
And they will need to serve. They need to
and they will do national service.
Yeah.
Yes. And they did.
Yeah.
And they would. And you would need to ask them.
Yeah.
But look, we make decisions that we think are in the best interests of our children. They had varied experiences in them. One of them was unfortunately injured playing rugby. And that meant his journey through national service was quite a challenge because it was desk-bound. And he's an immensely talented sportsman, very active, and he wasn't able to do any of that. So 2 years at a desk job when you're mentally somebody who wants to be running, jumping, pushing, and testing your own physical boundaries at the age of 18, obviously that's not good. And then my second son went in. Let's just say there are different approaches to the racial integration in national service. He did exceptionally well. When I say that, he got an award for shooting. He was made a second sergeant. His entire platoon turned up to the airport when he left to go to university.
Wow.
I had a moment and had to walk away to one side, small tear.
Yeah.
And he got a scholarship to university from Singapore because of his services because of his work in national service.
Yeah.
So different outcomes. Obviously, there was trepidation in part of that. But when they then went to university, they were a couple of years older, a couple of more years maturity. They've got far more world experience from that. Not that they were short of world experience, they've travelled extensively. But I think it benefited them.
Yeah.
You know, it gave them, I think one of the biggest challenges of teenagers is a sense of commitment to timing. Turn up, wake up, get up, make your bed, all of those things. I think there is far more positives from national service and the integration that brings you, and all the way down to they can swear in Singaporean, they can talk Singlish better than you would be surprised to hear them.
Why do you think they actually offer you a citizenship?
But I was working for a multinational corporation. I had 2 young men who potentially were going to do national service, and I was paying a very solid amount of tax. I imagine those would be the 3 main drivers of it. I don't think it was my shockingly good looks. I don't think they thought they'd got Chris Hemsworth. But
I guess it was more common.
You're supposed to
back
laugh
then.
at that.
Yeah, but I mean now it's hard to get a PR. I know that 10 years ago it was easier to get a PR and to
look. The reality is the assessment criteria and everything else has changed radically. Also, my age would have been part of it. You know.
Yeah. How old were you when you got offered?
35.
35. Yeah. Yeah, the age plays a big role. I know. Yeah. Singapore wants younger folk.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I would have been 33.
So you go get your passport, then you need to give up your British passport, and then give them a letter that you give up.
Other way round. You actually need to apply to the British High Commission here and say, look, I'm making this decision to transition. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Cut that. I'm making this decision to take Singaporean citizenship. They charge you a remarkable amount of money to give you a letter saying,
oh, really?
You have renounced, at the time, the Queen.
Like how much, roughly?
At the time, it was £750,
okay.
if I remember right. It was like, I'm like, no, I'm giving you it back. Like,
yeah,
what?
Why?
Yeah.
But if you give up American passport, you need to pay all your taxes. it's like.
Well, the Brits will get there.
Worse, yeah.
the UK government will absolutely be running at global taxation, so don't you worry.
You think so?
Oh, 100%.
100%.
I'm absolutely amazed that they've not done it sooner.
Wow. It would be a super big deal.
Why? Why would it be a super big deal?
For them, because so many Brits live abroad.
But for them, they're not Labour voters. I can assure you that most of them are not Labour voters. So it would be a relatively easy job that would raise some income. They desperately need tax income. As most Western governments are destitute, they need that income, and it's for people that either have been overseas so long that they actually don't qualify to vote.
No, for them, yes. I mean, but for people abroad, I mean, how many, like 40,000 Brits live in Singapore alone?
Yeah.
Massive.
Great tax income for the UK government.
Okay, we'll see.
We will. I take a wager on that.
Have you noticed more electrical cars on Singapore roads lately? One name that's starting to stand out is Series, a premium EV brand from China with deep roots in innovation. Its flagship model, the Aito M9, has even outperformed BMW and Mercedes in sales, reaching 150,000 deliveries in just 15 months. On May 27th, Series, Aito's parent company, was one of only 3 Chinese car makers invited to the ASEAN GCC China Economic Forum in Malaysia. That's a strong sign of how global their impact has become. The Aito M9 is made at Series Lights Out factory using over 3,000 robots and 1,600 smart terminals. It also uses gigacasting to reduce 222 parts down to just 10, making production faster and more efficient. Series leads in intelligent driving support too. By April, their cars had launched over 2 billion kilometers using driver assist features with smart functions activated on more than 74% of trips. Today, their cars are on the road in over 70 countries, and right here in ASEAN, they've had a fully automated factory in Indonesia and over 50 outlets across the region. I'm grateful to Series for supporting today's video, and I really hope we'll see more technology like this becoming available to all of us. When you travel, people surprised that you're Singaporean when they see your passport at the border or somewhere else?
Very, and it's a different. And even in Singapore, if you sit in a meeting with senior individuals, and I have been known to put my Singaporean passport on the table and I go, oh,
just to show that, I'm one of you.
No, I'm more Singaporean than I look. And it makes difference. It makes a difference that you've made the effort. It makes a difference, I believe, that they see that there's commitment there. You're not transient, and they're looking for that. So you get, over time, you get that. But that's the same as anywhere, right? You build community, you build connections.
What does it mean for you to be a Singaporean?
I can't answer that adequately, I don't think. And I'll tell you why I can't answer that adequately, I believe. Because I was born and raised in the UK, I take the approach that irrespective of what passport I have, I'm not Singaporean in one sense, as in I'm not Chinese Singaporean, certainly. And so I think it's very important to take the approach that you're a guest. So I try and take that approach, and I've sort of got to that conclusion over a long period of time. I'm sure I haven't behaved that way all of the time, but I now believe it important that you behave as a guest almost everywhere you are, because by behaving as a guest, you remove any level of entitlement you have. And entitlement is very ugly and detrimental. So if you behave like a guest, if I behave like a guest in Singapore, fundamentally I'm kinder, I'm more polite, I'm not expectant of the delivery from the other way. So that's my approach is that. Just behave like a guest, wherever you are.
Is there anything that you would like to improve in Singapore?
What has changed and what continues to creep and expand both in Singapore and in almost every other, what is described euphemistically as advanced economy, is government expansion. And things like management of COVID was pretty much a disaster globally, I would say. Destroyed businesses everywhere in the world. The restrictions here in Singapore were ludicrous, but they were in the majority of countries globally. The response to that was lunacy. So with that, we have just got, and it makes these businesses, and we're here sitting at Chef's Tavern, a new business. How would this business be affected differently today if that it had been established 10, 15 years ago? Considerably less, considerably more government involvement in regulation, in manpower constraints, in all of those things. There are lots of positives in there in Singapore, particularly around tax. If you actually engage with government here on pretty much any level, from ACRA to the majority, in fact I would say almost all of the government agencies, whilst there is a lot to do and a lot of hoops to jump through, if you engage with them positively, they are both it blows my mind how efficient they are, how engaging they are, and actually how reasonable they are most of the time. Obviously, as with any government, certain agencies are better than others, but it astounds me how efficient things are, and obviously that's part of the benefit of being a young society with great technology, high investment ability here, and managing an island the size of a postage stamp. That gives Singapore enormous benefits. Right? Transport, I don't mean buses, but I do mean buses. But every single form of transport here is world class. Find somewhere where it works better. I can't think of one globally. Anyway, the health system here, okay, you pay for it. I'm a firm believer that people should pay for health. It's bankrupting the UK. Their adherence to the National Health Service is bankrupting the UK. They can't get out of the institutional acceptance that has to be free for everybody. It just doesn't work. So the health service here is, and I've tested it. Sadly, I've had a very challenging 12 months. The health services here are absolutely world class. Safety and security. When do you see a policeman here? But it works, right? You feel safe living here. Your family is safe living here.
100%.
Massive. I mean, again, I ask, if you've got things that you want to improve here, please tell me what they are and tell me where they are doing that better than they're doing in Singapore. Because I can't think of very many places. I don't want to chew gum. I don't want to chew gum and have it stuck to my shoes. Those things I don't care about. I think it's an incredibly sensible social construct in Singapore, whereby, in effect, you are taxed for choice. And what I mean by that is, if I want to drink alcohol, I'm going to pay for that alcohol, and that alcohol is going to be expensive. But that's a choice that I make. If I want to smoke, again, I'm going to pay for that, and the government's going to benefit from the taxes that it raises. If I want to own a car here, is probably a bigger example, I'm going to pay for the privilege of owning that car, but it's choice, and the government is going to reap the benefits of you making that choice. But the upside of all of that is there's really no road congestion here. They really compare it to another Southeast Asian city, or frankly any global city. The traffic congestion here is minimal. If I choose not to have a car in Singapore, then look at the choices I have of public transport. Again, they're world class. The MRT system is absolutely world class, clean, affordable, efficient. Wow, it broke down once. It was like a major national scandal. It broke down this year once. Like, try the tube in London. It breaks down every day.
You bet on Asia versus Europe, so you think Asia is the next big thing. Maybe you can, like, if you have an opinion about like any countries nearby, like what would be your like list of next big thing countries here?
Malaysia. I think Malaysia's been through. If Malaysia can get out of its own way on the corruption scale, I mean, if you look at the ranking of passports, I can't remember which one I'd looked at most recently. I think it was the Henson study or something about passport mobility. Singapore's number one. I think the next in Southeast Asia, I think the next closest one is Malaysia, the 11th.
Yeah.
11th equal with 70 other countries, but 11th nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think the opportunity for Malaysia, and obviously your lens is always coloured by what you're now doing, of course. So I realise I realise what I'm saying now links back to and that's why you're establishing a business there.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure my bias is going in that direction, but I was put off Malaysia early on in my career because somebody had tried to, no other way, it was graft. I was being asked to buy gifts for somebody, and when I'm not legally allowed to do that, I've signed a non-conflict of interest clause for the company I'm working for. I can't buy you a flat screen TV, sorry. So I have to say my impression of Malaysia was coloured poorly at the start, through friends, through family, through visits. I've got over that because I was so focused on building Rabbit Carrot Gun here in Singapore. I hadn't travelled for nearly a decade, really. Most of my travel was holiday, if we ever got one. So it would be beach or resort. The decade prior to that, I'd been to every city across most of Asia, actually. No, that's a stretch. All of Southeast Asia and a fair chunk, but I'd travelled extensively. The majority of that travel was to Southeast Asia. So going to Manila, going to the main ones, right? Jakarta, Manila,
Bangkok,
Bali, Ho Chi Minh, right?
Bali, Phuket.
Bangkok. Not so much Bali and Phuket, although going back there after a decade of not having been there, it is mind-blowing to see how much development's gone in all of those markets. It's mind-blowing to see the investment in education, particularly digital education, and some of the skill sets that are in markets like Jakarta, Ho Chi Minh. Amazing to see. I think all of those markets are ahead of Ho Chi Minh, but Ho Chi Minh's developing super fast. I know you travel a lot, but they're unrecognisable to what they were previously. The traffic still sucks in Jakarta. The traffic still sucks in Manila. The traffic in Bangkok has improved majorly, apart from when it rains, and then forget it. It's in trouble.
Yeah.
But all of them have different possibilities. All of them offer opportunities in the digital sphere. All of them offer amazing opportunities in terms of youth of population, speed of development, increasing investment, I would suggest, in all of them. And I'd say all of those cities, because of the lower starting point in terms of disposable income, there is far more edge, there's far more entrepreneurship, there's far more going on in those markets than there is here in Singapore.
What's your biggest regret in life?
I am a flawed individual who has made many mistakes in life. I'm also very fortunate I've made some very positive choices. And I believe the positive choices have outweighed any regrets that I've got.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful that I'm where I am right now. I'm very blessed with my wife and my health. That would be my other principle, I have to say. I had a really, really shitty 12 months health-wise. As you get older, you look at your children and go, my God, they're bulletproof. Or at least they think they're bulletproof. And as you get older, you realise you're not.
Yeah.
Certainly, I would say principle, but maybe it's a relatively new principle I've carried on regardless for too long, and I've realised I really need to take health far more seriously than I have done today.
Yeah. What's the meaning of life for you?
I hope the meaning of my life is leaving things in a better place than where I found them when I leave.
Why does it matter?
It matters to me that there is a positive contribution from everybody's life. We'll all make mistakes, but when you're in the grave looking out of it, can you look up and say, I did my best, and despite any faults that might be there or any failures that might be there, I've contributed more positively than negatively.